Hello, everyone. This is Under the Mayo. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Gaming Enthusiasm. And today I'm joined by Jay from Jay's Reviews. Jay, how are you doing?
I'm swell. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I've had a pretty good day. I woke up early in the morning and took a bit of a nap. But I'm excited to be here talking to you for the first time.
I am as well.
I found you, God, I don't follow your channel a whole bunch, but I've seen your stuff like here and there over the years. Because looking at your channel, looking at everything you've covered, you cover a few topics that are kind of in my world, and then you cover a bunch of stuff that's outside of what my interests are. And so it's been cool to kind of connect recently and see more of your stuff and actually get to talk to you. I wanted to ask, first off, how did you start with YouTube?
I mean, so for me, I started doing YouTube when I was 14 in the ninth grade. This is 8 years ago, 2015.
Okay.
So that's when I started doing it, but I had wanted to do it for a while because I've been watching YouTube since I don't know, 2007 or 2008 or whatever. Just usually watching like Sonic AMV type stuff or other Sonic fan animation type things.
Okay.
Until it wasn't until I discovered Some Call Me Johnny in like 2010, doing his classic Sonic retrospective, the original one he did 14 years ago, when it was like a guy talking about video games with like a script and footage and stuff. It was like the coolest thing I had ever seen. I had never seen anything like it before. And it's like I had never seen the AVGN. I didn't end up watching the AVGN for a couple more years after that. But It's like one of the things that I always liked doing when I was like a really little kid was just tell people about the video games I've been playing. Like I somehow was able to like remember the ending of Sly 2 word for word and recite it to anybody who would listen. Like that kind of thing. So obviously the world of just talking about video games appealed to me. So I had like wanted to do what Johnny was doing. But obviously I was in 2010, I was like 9 years old. So that was not going to happen. But I basically like waited a few years before I could really get into it. Although there was a brief period in 2012 when I had like uploaded a few videos in my dad's account. They were terrible, like a webcam like pointed at the screen for footage, like that kind of stuff, like the worst thing imaginable.
Hey, dude, my early Mortal Kombat 9 tutorials were like a 2008 Handycam pointed at a 26-inch, TV. So I know what you mean.
Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's like that's the funny thing is that I've like now erased all trace of that. I have one of those still on my hard drive, but like the rest of them are all gone. But like it was actually around then, this coincidence is that while I was making those videos, like Johnny had done like a live stream in like 2012 where he had talked about how like making quality content is an investment. You have to like have the microphone, the capture card. Although at the time everyone was using fucking Dazzle and shit, but like it was still like his point was just that if you want to make good stuff, you have to be willing to put in the resources to be able to do that. When I was like 11, I didn't have that. And I also figured, I might as well, I somehow was wise enough to be like, I might as well wait a couple years until my, let's say my voice is easier to take seriously and I have some equipment to get the stuff really going. So yeah, in 2015, I started up my videos properly and it has been what I have done ever since.
And is that full time for you? Do you have any other? I mean, you don't have to tell me your job, but is this a full time thing, or do you supplement it with some other?
This is it.
Yeah.
I finished high school in 2019, and I've been going to college ever since. But no, this is it for me. The only job I ever worked is when I was a camp counselor between 10th and 11th grade. That was quite the summer. But, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's nice. I'm sure you had a positive impact on some kids' lives. Or you were a dick. Or you were a dick, maybe. I don't know.
I was not. No, the real truth is that when you're working in a job like camp counselors, it's the kids you got to be afraid of.
Sure.
Not them being afraid of you. I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was it.
Okay. So do you see this going forward for another? Like, because it's weird. Okay. I've been in this for half the time that you have. I got into YouTube. Oh, I mean, I've been doing YouTube since 2011, but like as something that's like you make money from for only about 4 years, and so it's not the only thing I do. But it's weird to think of like are we doing this in 30 years? Are we making YouTube videos?
I mean, if we want to just dive right into that discussion, I have a
Sure.
lot of thoughts about YouTube as like a long-term arrangement.
Go
Not as
for
in
it.
that is what my plan is. It's just more like, YouTube, especially let's just like focus on the YouTube game review niche, like, the stuff that's like AVGN and onward, that whole era of
Mhm.
the internet is like, there is like no blueprint on what you're supposed to do with that when
Yeah.
you've already proven successful. Everyone's making it up as they go along because it's like
Yeah.
the AVGN and the Nostalgia Critic, these aren't people who wanted to do it for their whole lives. It's like we've seen, I think they've tried to break away from it numerous times, but like end up always having to come back because like, I think that's kind of the issue with like the personality driven thing
Yeah.
is that, you're kind of locked into that specific thing. You're not like you're an actor where you can go play some other part, and then YouTube is kind of like a business, but you can't really sell it because the business is you. So you can't really like move on from it unless you do like what MatPat did just a few months ago, where he just decided he was done. But he also had people, proteges, to like take it and run with it in his absence. So when you're just an ordinary person just doing videos on video games, the long-term plan is kind of a mystery, as I'm sure you've thought about. Is like, a lot of us, from what I have talked to, because I've been talking to a lot of people, is that they want to ride the thing out until the wheels fall off. But when that is, or when they're gonna burn out, or just not want to do it anymore, it's kind of like an unknown as to what that path looks like. But for me, like, yeah, I can envision myself doing it for the next couple of years. I have some ideas, but it's like, yeah, I'm just imagine it, I'm 34, like, all right, Sonic's back again. Did he trip over his own shoes this time? Find out tonight. Like,
Yeah.
the same old type. So I don't know. I'd hope to think I'd like to have done something besides that by then, but you never know.
Well, I mean, looking at your content, you seem to kind of go where you want to, which is that. I mean, on my side, that's been the key to my happiness doing this. If I could share for a minute, when I had a friend that was actually kind of pushing me to do YouTube at first, because she liked the way I analyzed things, and the reason I didn't want to was a particular moment in Angry Joe's history. I don't know if you remember this. It was like 2018 or something like that, when he was getting he had a lot of angry viewers that were pissed off that he wasn't doing enough angry reviews, and he was like diversifying into more like movie reviews and shows and stuff like that, and they were like really pissed at him. And he put out this video, it was like January of that year, where he was like apologizing to his viewers for not doing enough official angry reviews, and he did this like timeline. He's like, okay, we're gonna publish 3 angry reviews every single month or something like that. And I looked at that and I was like, my God, I would hate to feel held hostage by my viewers and not be able to just kind of diversify and change. And he couldn't either. Like within a couple months, he completely fell apart. And he was like, I can't do this. I'm just gonna fucking do what I want. And if you guys want to keep watching, great. And if you're out, then fine. But I got to do what makes me feel happy as a person.
Yeah,
And
well, that's the kind of the I think the double-edged sword of like success. And it's not like the audiences hate when YouTubers are like, "Oh, my life is so hard," but at the same
Sure.
time, there is a double-edged sword that kind of comes from that, where it's like if you in a creative space and people find like the thing they like about you, they kind of want you to be trapped in time,
Yes.
in that forever.
Yes.
Where it's like, for me, I'm not as like, I've never been as big as like wait, what name? Now the name is blanking on what.
Well,
person
G-Man's, CV, Angry Joe, anybody who gets,
Angry Joe, Joe.
anybody
That's
who gets like 500,000 to 1 million views on most anything they publish, that's a different tier.
For some reason, my mind kept thinking of JonTron. I was like, wait, we're not talking about JonTron. I thought we're talking about Angry Joe. So like that's the thing is that I have experience with the angry thing though, because like when I was like 16, 17, it was like so cool to get on the microphone and scream about how Mega Man X6 is bad, right? But it's like people want that kind of energy to keep going, even though people are like, why are you doing videos where like, nowadays I have a kind of dispassionate voiceover because it's like people are like, oh, what happened to that? Why are you forcing that? I was like, I'm actually not forcing that. It's just sort of what I sound like. I'm now like 23 or whatever. I say or whatever as if I don't know how old I am, but like I say it's just that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
It's just like whereas when I was like 16, a more emphatic tone of voice and getting really enthusiastic about video games was a lot more natural. But doing that now, I find that really, even doing that is exhausting. Like just.
Oh man, it still comes out of me pretty naturally when I talk about those damn chess pieces.
Yeah, well, sometimes it can warrant it, but that's
Sure.
the thing. If you bring it out when it really feels necessary, then I guess that actually makes it more valuable than
Totally.
if it's like all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot more authentic because it is authentic. You're not putting on a show. But yeah,
And I think
you were saying.
Oh, I think that's actually one of the difficulties of like when you say putting on a show is like the angry video game nerd is like clearly like a character. That's like kind of always supposed to be the point of it, but then it's like for the rest of us who have had phases of doing like angry type videos, that sort of just like is how people think you actually are. Because I don't know, it's like if you don't portray yourself as like a show with like an on-camera persona and an off-camera persona, it's like it can kind of affect your reputation if you make one like angry video that people don't like, and suddenly that people associate you as that like angry person. Even if I'm quite
aware.
mellow.
Yeah, that was what my original fear, that when my channel got attention from Doom Eternal back in like March 2020, and I started doing videos, and I immediately had that flashback to that Angry Joe video. I was like, holy shit, I don't want people to think I'm just this one thing, and if I try to do anything else, they're going to hate me for it. So I was like, immediately, Resident Evil 3 video. Okay, immediately, a Mortal Kombat video. Okay, I'm going to talk about RoboCop. I'm going to talk about an indie game. It's kind of like, and I think you've done a good job of that yourself, of sending a clear message to your viewers of, hey, come here because you like what I do in general, and not because you want to hear me talk about this one game or this one genre. And it does lead to a lot of traffic unpredictability, right? Like you'll have a video that does 30K, and then you'll have a video that does 250K. And then you might have a video every once in a while that pops off to 1 million, and you can never really predict what your videos do because you're not sticking to the one thing. But I think you would agree with me that it puts you in a much better emotional state with your own content.
Yeah, well, especially because it's like I feel this way about most like one topic YouTubers. It's like no shade to anybody in particular. It's just more like I see this happen a lot where you can kind of grow and pop off for a little bit being like a one trick pony, but that eventually gets dry, and that's even worse than like an inconsistent spread. And yeah, for me it's like I've always just done whatever I felt like doing. Like that is just sort of how it, like my first major success was my Mega Man X retrospective, like the original. I later redid the whole thing like 5 years later. Okay. But like the original one I did in 2016, 17, that was the first real win I had. And it was in that process. I think I had like 200 subs when I first did Mega Man X1. And then by the time I was at X8 in 2017, I had like 3,000. So
okay,
that was the first major success. And like that was like the first time where I dealt with, all right, when's the Mega Man Zero retrospective? And people saying that to me for like a year and a half straight until they finally got it. But then in the time in between, like people were complaining about like we don't want to watch like Batman the animated series, which is the thing I did right after that. And it's like, look, what made the Mega Man X retrospective something you liked is not because of the fact that there's a fire truck going by. I don't know if you can hear that.
I do.
Okay. I might as well let it pass.
It's very, very low in the background. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so as I was saying, what you liked about that Mega Man retrospective was the fact that it was something I wanted to do, and that is like the palpable energy. Believe me, if I did like just all Mega Man right now, I don't know if you would actually like it because I don't really know if I want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
that's the energy I've kept going the whole time. So I've just sort of had a lucky thing where like I do one thing for a while and people resonate with it or not. Maybe they resonate with it after the fact, but then it's like you just keep switching between different things. But then that's a double-edged sword too, where you do get to a point where you now have like an audience in multiple different sub niches, who all want the one thing. But like people are gonna be like, even now it's like, ironically, when I did Batman the animated series, the whole point was I was going to do a retrospective on all the shows in the DC animated universe, which is, you know, Batman the animated series, Superman, Justice League, Batman Beyond. That was the idea, and it was incredibly unpopular for the first half of its life on my channel. It was the least popular thing I did because it was like, it wasn't even a video game. But then my Justice League season 1, just by out of nowhere, ended up being one of my most popular uploads of all time. It's currently my second most popular video.
Wow.
And that turned that around, where cartoons were a thing people would want to watch from my channel. And the problem is that I'm not really that interested in animation as a genre of things. It's just sort of, I have certain cartoons that I liked and wanted to talk about at that moment in time, you know?
And they're like, hey, review this show.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't even know how to.
And I'm like, yeah, things I've never seen before. Yeah. And it's like, it creates kind of a supply problem where, you know, I'll get people every now and again be like, we're subscribed for the cartoons, and this guy kept being relentless about it. So I broke it down for him, and he's like, a majority of your subs are here for the cartoons, you turn their back on them. I said, let's do like actual math. I actually counted up every subscriber gained from every cartoon upload I have done, and I said that is about 13% of my sub base, which is fair, because that's about 13% of the content I have made. I like mathematically broke it down for him. But it's like, they still keep asking, and it's like, I get you'd like to have people interested in your stuff, but it is kind of like I guess kind of a sad thing where it's like, well, like I said, supply problem, because it's not like I'm just like sitting around here waiting to do the same thing over and over and over again.
Right. You get bored with it and you run out of stuff. Yeah. I mean, I got there with RoboCop. Like I started talking about all the RoboCop movies, and people really liked it, and they're like, talk about this RoboCop thing, and so I did. Yeah. And I'm like, what other RoboCop stuff do I talk about? You want me to review all 24 episodes of the 90s Canadian series? I'm not going to do that.
Their answer will probably be yes.
Yeah, do it. Like, yeah, I guess maybe give me a couple of years, maybe, but goddamn.
And I do like to say to people, I mean, never say never. It's just more like, I only want to do whatever I want to do. And that's the thing that I think has been the most important element of success for me, is that just whatever retrospectives I get into are things I wanted to do. And of course, sometimes you have bad ideas, you know, just like, frankly, sometimes you just have shitty ideas that don't work. I remember one time I did this thing 4 years ago. It was going to be like a Crash versus Spyro. It was going to be like, you know, Spyro 1 versus Crash 1, all the PS1 era games compared and contrasted. It was an idea I had that I thought would be cool, but the problem with it was that I don't really, I grew up playing Crash, and I didn't grow up playing Spyro, and I don't really like Spyro that much. I thought it was all right. So therefore it was like, well, one of these games is a game that I like compared to a game that's completely different that I don't really have anything particular passion for. So those videos were kind of a flop, but it's like, either way, the idea is still the same. As I was doing something I thought would be interesting, but you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but like, still, that's the guiding principle, is to just do the things that you're interested in doing.
So I've noticed that you tend to pick a topic and stick with it for 3 to 4 videos. When did you decide that was kind of your format? You don't just jump around. You're like, I'm going to do this game, and I'm going to do multiple games in this series before I move on.
Yeah, well, that's like somewhat recent. I think one of my main reasons I started doing that this year is I remember last year I did all 6 Uncharted games back to back because you know, are you doing a long-term retrospective, you do all of them, right? But like by the end, it was like that wasn't a particularly popular series of videos, so it was just kind of like the same lukewarm-ish response for 6 weeks straight. You know, it's like, so it kind of like, I feel like it creates a thing for the creator and the audience where we all get burnt out on it. Whereas, so this year I was kind of just wanted to be like, I don't want there to be like a burnout of the same thing. So this year I did Mega Man 1, 2, 3, and then I did like RE5 and 6 and RE4 remake, and then I just did DMC 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to do Mega Man 4, 5, and 6 as my next thing.
So that's why you're taking the break between DMC 3 and DMC 4.
Yeah, so that you can come back to it. It's a little more like refreshed.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I need kind of a mental break from all the combos and the style.
And from all the combos, the style, the YouTube comments, all that stuff.
Yeah, a little break because so I can go back in a little fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's basically the approach that I'm trying to take, is just like,
that's cool,
so that you can like get 3 videos is a good number, like 3 in a row is a good number.
Yeah, because you can't do DMC 1 and 2 and then leave people hanging for half a year.
Yeah,
you can't. DMC 3 is a good place to stop for a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Do we talk about how DMC how our collaboration came about and all that kind of stuff? I'm sure there's a few people who are curious what the hell's going on.
So I was already gonna redo Devil May Cry this year for a while. That was already in my cards for a bit. But yeah, so I just as you know, did DMC 1 earlier this month.
Yeah.
And then you happened to do it as well.
Yeah, four days later.
Yeah, so we saw that, and then it was a complete coincidence that we both uploaded DMC 2 on the same day. Like, that was a complete coincidence.
Total coincidence. We had not communicated any more than like me leaving a comment on your video saying, "Oh, cool, I just did one too," and you left a comment on mine, and that was it. And then
that's it.
I published in the morning, and and then like 4 or 5 hours later, I saw that you had yours video, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, so
people in the comments were so confused. They're like, "You guys are coordinating this, right?"
And it's like, yeah, if only YouTubers were that strategic. Believe us, we're not.
No, it was really it was really funny.
That was the thing. That was a complete coincidence. And then for DMC 3, obviously it was a coordinated thing with the cameos. So that is how that came.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Actually, it was an accident. We wound up getting this video by complete magic.
Some weird exporting error. Some kind of weird network link. Our videos got spliced together.
Unbelievable. 1 in a million chance, but it happened.
Yeah, we just knew it would be cute for the people who had noticed the coincidence, right? It's not for everybody, but a cute little joke. But yeah, like it's so weird that it happened at the same time because I put it off for 3.5 years, dude. I did DMC 5 in November of 2020. And people have been telling me, you got to play DMC 1, you got to play DMC 3, especially 3, for years and years. And I'm like, yeah, I want to, but I got to be in the mood. I got to be in the right mood to do this. And I was finally, and this year, I don't know, there's just nothing coming out this year that I'm really excited about. So I'm going back and playing a lot of older stuff that I wanted to visit. And I was like, you know what? This is the year. I'm going to do it. I'm going to finally do Devil May Cry. And I did it, and I just happened to be doing it right as you did. It was just a crazy coincidence.
Then, yeah, it was happening at the same time. I was like, these games I've played a million times and already did videos on. Let's redo them.
Yeah. Another channel that talks about Resident Evil, and so we have kind of like some viewers that watch both of our stuff, and so it just turned out to be a little happy little coincidence that turned out to be pretty fun.
Yeah. And it all turned out pretty good. Although, I think I told you this in your DMC 1 comments, where I was like, to me, I just think it's interesting to have a newcomer's perspective, because it's like when you talk about things like the camera or whatever, I can be like, that is true, isn't it? Whereas, like, I've just played it so many times that I've gone essentially nose blind to it.
Yeah.
And I think, like, the hardcore perspective and the newcomer's perspective can both, like, I think, be pretty warranted in the discourse. So,
do you mind if I elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a perspective that became really valuable to me because of my experience in the Doom Eternal community. Because I was heavily into that game, as most people know. I did videos on it for 2 years, and as I saw the community grow and as I saw the community get better and better and better, they started to feel differently about certain things, and I ended up being one of the only people in that level of community that was defending certain mechanics or certain design decisions because of the first time player experience. And I was saying, you guys don't like this now, but you've forgotten what it felt like the first 1 to 3 times you played this part of the game, and how important it was to getting you to do a certain thing or to feel a certain way. And like, I understand that you don't like it now, but there's stuff that is really important to the new player experience. And if you don't make the new player experience great, you're not going to have people who fall in love with the game and go to the high level. And so,
Yeah, no, it's in that, because I feel like I maybe I've said this in a video before. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I feel this way, is that you can be a pro at any game ever made, like almost any game. Like,
yeah,
people will defend their favorite games by saying, "Oh, well, if you do this speed running strat or whatever, you would like the game suddenly."
yeah,
But it's like, Sonic 06 is a game you can be a pro at, like,
sure,
if you wanted to.
yeah, yeah.
Every game's got strats, every game has got like a learning curve. The problem is the act of good game design is merely making a game that both parties like, because you have to be the former to become the latter, I guess is what you were just saying.
Yeah, like it was this weird, it's this weird comment that I get sometimes on talking about sequels. I'm sure you've heard it before, but where people were like, how did you play this game without playing X game first, right? Like DMC5 was my first game in the series, essentially. I played like DMC4 for like 2 hours. That was it. And I played DMC5. And that's the game I talked about. And they're like, how could you play this game without playing the first in the series? And my response is, new games need new audiences to be financially successful. You can't just sell a new game 15 years after the last one, or whatever, 11 years after the last one, and only market it to the people who played DMC 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this applies to anything, like the Resident Evil games or any other sequel. You need to take into account that a lot of your audience is going to be people who've never played any of the games in your series before, and you have to consider them, and you have to make an experience that is good for them. You can't just assume that people already know what to do and how to have fun.
I feel like that's kind of a thing in like nerddom discourse on the internet that I find kind of weird, is that nobody seems to get that. I mean,
No,
like, or like people no, rather maybe almost like they get it, but they would almost rather their favorite things have a small audience, because it's almost like they've attached their whole identity to being a fan of a niche thing.
Yeah.
So like for them, they would rather Resident Evil not have like a new audience that people can get into, or like DMC5 would rather not appeal to a new audience, because it's like, we don't want those normies like investing our games.
Well, then you want your games to financially fail, right?
I mean, honestly, I think it's not that dissimilar to where people having an issue with their favorite bands or movie stars or even YouTubers, selling out.
Yeah.
When it's like my friend, my best friend's Tactical Bacon Productions, he always puts it like this. He's
great channel. Great channel.
Yeah, we've known each other for a hot minute, but he says is like, basically you want your favorite stars to be able to sell out, because that means they can keep making the things that you like.
Yeah. And even though we're derailing into music here, like, that's a lot of times I don't think it's even a conscious sell out thing. It's just that you grow as a musician, you start taking in other influences, you play live and you see the audience reaction, and you want to make more music that makes an audience happy because you love that feeling, and so you start making beats that are a little more universal. It's just like, it just kind of naturally happens to a lot of artists. And it's not so much. I think it's rarely a decision of a band. We'll say band, because this is more of a discussion that you get from rock bands, right? Mm-hmm. That I think it's rarely a decision of, we need to make our next album more commercial. I don't think that. I think it usually happens a lot more organically than that. They just start writing something that's a little different, is a little poppier, because the guitar player's been listening to some synthwave lately, and now he's got some different ideas, and it just kind of happens, and over time, and you mellow out as a person, because like you just said, you were 16 and you were screaming about video games. You're a lot mellower now. And then you have a hardcore band that is screaming on stage when they're teenagers, and when they're 30 years old, like, they feel different, and you get accused of selling out because your change made you more commercial, when that isn't necessarily something you do as a conscious decision.
Yeah, I think it is just kind of like a gradual process that just sort of, as you change as a person, you just have an interest in making different things. We were just talking about that with YouTube. It's really not that dissimilar.
Yeah.
Sellout has like a really negative connotation to it, but yeah, it's really just,
I think
when you
I think
get
you could.
bigger,
You can
go ahead.
see it. I was just gonna say you can see it more. I think in something like YouTube, when someone makes a sudden pivot in their channel style and their tone, obvious in their thumbnails or whatever. Like you're like,
Yeah.
wow, you are like, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
It's a little more obvious that way than like a musician's artistic evolution as they're playing guitar, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also just kind of like part of the struggle is that you want to be adaptable to different styles of video because like as different things become popular, you want to be able to like be versatile while also sticking to what your channel is about. Because I think that's kind of like one of the scarier parts about YouTube is that we all have to kind of be adaptable in a sense
Sure.
because the algorithm is like changing every year. So you don't want to be stuck in the same trap all the time, but you also do want to be able to make stuff that the people who already like you will continue to enjoy. So
Sure. Let's talk Resident Evil.
my
Uh,
favorite,
yes,
or
mine
one of them.
too, or at least up there. Yeah. So, what was your first Resident Evil game? What got you into the series on a hardcore level?
Well, I've talked about this in my videos on DMC and RE4, but it's like it was RE4, but it was when I was just at a GameStop, just walking through the PS4 section, being like, what do I want to grab today? This is 6 years ago now, and it was I got the DMC HD collection and the RE4 PS4 edition,
Wow. So,
and
wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Both Devil May Cry and RE4 were new to you 6 years ago.
yeah, I'd never played them before.
Oh, you're such a baby.
Yeah, I mean, like I had said this in my RE4 video. It was like people talk about having grown up with Metal Gear and Resident Evil. I was like, I don't know where you guys are coming from. Like,
Yeah.
if I said in 2005, can I have Resident Evil 4 and it's this box art with this raving chainsaw man, it's like I would not have gotten that game, needless
Sure.
to say.
Sure.
Like this was not going to happen. And the funny thing is, I was allowed to play all kinds of games like that. I was like, we were not age appropriate. Like M was the hard line, whereas I had played T-rated games before, like Jack 2 or whatever, but not like something like Resident Evil 4 would definitely be a hard
Yeah.
pass from even my parents. So, but yeah, no, I had not played them before. But
Wow.
then when I did play DMC1, that's when I just became a DMC addict for years.
Okay.
It wasn't until like 2020 where I made like a serious effort to play RE4 all the way through, and it took me a long time to beat that game because it's long. But then like it was right after that because like the RE2 remake was like only a year old, and I then picked that up because it was also like a Leon game. So I'm like, let me try this because it's like one of the hot games to talk about
Yeah.
right now. And then I played that, and I was like, that was one of the most memorable experiences I've yet had. Like playing RE2 remake the first time to me felt like I was like walking through like an interactive like haunted house.
Yeah, it's
Like
brilliant.
it was really. So I really loved that game when I first played it, and I've now played that for like 100 hours and RE4 as well for like 100 hours. But then from there, I was like, I played a couple other of the games. Like I played RE3 remake. I had played what else actually? Oh no, I think that might have been. I played RE7 and RE8 when those came out. What I didn't do is I was like, if I'm going to play through these games, I might as well make videos out of it. So I didn't get around to that until like 2 years ago when I did RE1.
Okay.
So I've now been playing these games basically blind since then, and that's how my videos on them all came to be.
Okay. I think that was the first video I saw from you was your RE3 Nemesis video. I think that was the first thing I saw from you because I only found you. I didn't find you 8 years ago with your Jack stuff, right? Like it was kind of
All
recent.
right, good.
Yeah, so I knew your Resident Evil stuff before this whole DMC whatever happened. I knew your Resident Evil stuff, and after the DMC one coincidence, I revisited you and I watched more of your RE stuff, and yeah, it was interesting to hear the perspective of someone who was like, I played RE2 remake, and then I played RE3 remake, and then I went back and I played RE2 original for my first time and RE3 original for the first time, and here's how they compare. Like that's such a fascinating perspective to hear, and I think it has value, and I really appreciate your approach to those videos, and it also shows that like you don't have to play the nostalgia argument to see what's wrong with the RE3 remake.
I always
you don't have the vitriol towards it like I and other people do, but you can play the remake first and then play the original and be like, oh God, look at all this stuff that's missing.
Yeah, it's like I've always been in a weird spot with that game because I keep telling people, when people tell me that it's like one of the worst things to ever exist, I'm like, okay, well, let's not be dramatic about it. But then then the people who defend the remake are like, yeah, and then I'm like, the remake is a pretty lame game, but like it's like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, not a 2. And they're like, oh, you're one of them. I'm like, no, I'm not. I guess I'm literally completely and utterly in the middle on that one, where it's like, I think it's a pretty lame remake of a good game, but it's a fine game, I guess.
Yeah, in my review, I said it as like, as a game, it's not good, and as a remake of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, it's a disaster.
Yeah, it's a bad remake and a passable.
Yeah, and like a fine like run through the streets and shoot zombies game, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's more offensive things out there.
Yeah, that's part of the issue with it, is that like when I first played it, I looked at it as a sequel to the RE2 2019. I'm like, well, as a sequel to that game, it's trash. You know, it's like
it just doesn't hold up.
It's like, hey, I guess at least thanks to that we got RE4 remake, I guess, if you look at the bright side.
Yeah, but I mean, like the team that did 2 did 4, right?
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. You can see the quality there. So
yeah, I always like RE3 2020 is so obviously like a fiscal report filler game. Like Capcom really did not bring the A game.
And it's so upsetting to like. I get the comment occasionally. It's not often. So it's not really something to complain about. But here and there, I get the comment of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was a cash grab piece of shit anyway. And I was like, no, it wasn't. It is a fully finished, realized experience that is really good. And like they're like, it was just shoved out the door. No. RE2 came out in January of '98. RE3 came out at the end of 1999. That's almost 2 years. And in PlayStation 1 development time, that's
like a historic.
It's pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
So it is a solid game. And it's like, and I don't care that it was originally planned as a spin-off. Early on, they made the decision to make it a sequel, and they did. Like, it's not just a spin-off that had a stamp put on it that changed the name. No, they changed the development of the game to make it an official sequel, and it really works. And a lot of it, for a lot of us, I'm not going to say the majority. I'd say of the mainstream, most people would say Resident Evil 2 is their favorite. Resident Evil 2 is my least favorite of the 3, but I love it. But I prefer the creepy mansion setting and the tone of RE1 over RE2, which is a little more Hollywood blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
And then, but RE3 is my number one because of the city exploration, because of the Nemesis system, because of the deeper character of Jill Valentine over the more superficial characters of the other games who are, I mean, I don't want to say superficial, more like surface level, like we don't really feel their personalities as much. But in Jill Valentine in Resident Evil 3, you feel her concern for the other characters. You feel her attitude. You feel her stress. She's a more developed character. It looks gorgeous. There's just so much in RE3 that makes up my favorite of the series. And so RE3 Remake stings extra deep because that's it. That's all we're going to get. Like that is the remake. That's it. And I I mean, do you think they're gonna remake Resident Evil 3 again in 15 years? I mean, Capcom
Yeah.
might, but I'm assuming that this is what we get, and I did a video on cut content where I laid it out where we got that RE1 remake on GameCube. It made us crave those remakes of 2 and 3, and we never got them, and we waited 20 years for them, and then this is what we got. And it's devastating as a fan, and it hurts. It makes us extra pissed off about this game, to where we take a game that is basically just kind of like, it's okay, it's an okay game, but it's a bad sequel to 2, and it's a terrible remake, and it makes us hate it. And I think that's a defensible position as a fan of the original, but like it's not one that you can understand if you don't understand the love and why the original was so good. If you just view it as, oh, it's just Jill Valentine in the streets, no, it's like RE3 Nemesis is a special game.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of like what I say to anybody is like, even if you believe that Resident Evil 3 on PS1 was some like side game, even if you think that, like, that's still no reason to give it a lame remake. Like,
Sure.
that's like,
Yeah,
that would be all the more reason for the remake to be good. So the fact that it like cuts all the worthwhile original content from the game, isn't that cause for criticism even then?
yeah.
So that's like
point.
what I always say. And it really is just like a missed opportunity to do something really cool.
And it's a better
unique.
sequel narratively. Like, I haven't played Code Veronica. That's kind of blasphemy to say. I didn't have a Dreamcast, for one. I didn't get the PS2 port when it came out, and it's something that I want to get to. But I have only played the mainline series 1 through 8. I have not played a single spin-off title. And I include Code Veronica in that discussion. I want to, and it's going to be something fun to discuss on my channel. But the sequel idea of Claire going to find Chris in another country and dealing with what she deals with there is a cool continuation of the story. But as a part 3 of the series, Jill's story seems to be so much more appropriate, because what the fuck happened to Raccoon City? Right? Like, what about all those zombies running through the streets? Like, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis closes the story of Raccoon City, which is what Resident Evil was originally about. Right? You had the mansion, and then you had the citywide outbreak, and then the whole place is nuked off the map. And that is a beautiful trilogy. And then everything else kind of goes off from there. And so you can't say that Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is some spin-off game when it is literally the ending of a trilogy narratively.
Yeah, no, I think that actually is an interesting way to like. I always felt like RE3 was like a worthwhile third part, and then I always viewed CV as a main entry in the series, even if it didn't have a number on it. But like, I guess they're both kind of really influential in that sense, where it's like RE3, like you said, closed off the book on Raccoon City, but then like, I always found it funny that CV is just this Dreamcast game that like nobody played when it came out. Okay, like, not nobody, for somebody in the comments goes, "Oh, I played it." It's like, no, like not as many people as the PS1 games. But it's always find it funny that game is the reason why Wesker is like back from the dead with superpowers and stuff.
Yes, which is,
and it's like the whole rest of the series has to revolve around that fact, which came from a Dreamcast game. Like,
oh man, you touched a nerve. Like, that's what I haven't even played it, but I know that's what it does, which is something that turns me off, because that's one thing I just don't like about the series. Wesker fucking died. In all the endings, he was dead. He either gets stabbed by the tyrant and he's dead, or you run to the engine room and you find his dead body by the engine room, by the self-destruct sequence.
You do? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because there's endings where Wesker's not in the laboratory with you, or like he leaves or something like that. There are different endings, and so where he just kind of walks out the door and he's gone. But if you run back into the engineering room for no reason, because there's no reason to do it.
Yeah, I had never gone there.
If you go back to the engine room where you restored power to the laboratory, his corpse is right there next to it, because that's where he activated the self-destruct sequence.
So
Yeah.
then, like, yeah,
All
CV is the
endings,
retcon
he's
of the
dead.
retcon,
He's
yeah.
fucking dead. And then they brought him back, and then he starts teleporting, and I'm like, man, this used to be like a grounded sci-fi series about a virus that turned people into zombies, and there's experiments, and that's it. And then people get psychic powers, and they start teleporting around, and that's when I kind of stopped caring. I still like the games. I still love the gameplay and the mood and all that stuff, but I stopped caring about the story after RE3.
Yeah, well, it's also what I was going to say is that like Wesker is like one of my favorite characters to play in like the Mercenaries, I guess, in RE4 and
fuck
RE4 remake.
Yeah, super
But I
fun.
was just thinking it was funny is like RE4 remake is this self-serious game, but Wesker is a character who can teleport and like do super moves and stuff, and it's all because of a really, really hokey Dreamcast game with terrible voice acting and storytelling. So, like. But like CV is a game I've kind of like had lightened up on because of the fact that, I mean, when I first played it, I was like, yeah, this is like not the worst thing you'll ever play, like not some piece of crap, but like, God, I did not enjoy it the first 2 times. But then I came back to it like a year ago now, and I was like, this game is, I still don't really think it's well designed, but I like it conceptually and atmospherically, if that's even a word. Like, I just liked what the game's vibe and what it was going for. I'm like Capcom. I'm on my hands and knees. Please give that a good remake. Like that's what I really want to see. Where it's like, I honestly kind of want to see that more than I want to see RE9. But like, basically, what I want for the next game is either CV remake or RE9. But like, we probably are gonna get like RE5 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd rather see one of those two. You know, speaking of voice acting, my Resident Evil disc was scratched when I rented it. It's so when you got to the snake door for the boss fight, the game would freeze. And so I never got to see what was beyond that. And I had to take the game back, and I would rent it again as a kid, and I'd play it again. I'd get to the snake, and it would just freeze. And that was all I saw of the game for like half a year. but the voice acting, like the Resident Evil 1 was the first kind of like bonding experience between me and my little sister because we didn't get along. But that game as kids was something like I would play it, and she would sit there in front of the TV and stare at it, right? And so we have like this history with the series, but we both remember that scratched disc fucked up the voice acting, and it made it
even worse.
It's still an inside joke between the two of us to this day. When Jill and Barry walk into the mansion or walk into the dining room, and they find the blood by the fireplace, and Jill says, "What is it?" And he says, "Blood." And then they say something else, and then he says, "I hope this isn't Chris's blood." And the scratch disc cut off the first part of blood, and so she said, "What is it?" And he says, "Ud." He said, "I hope this is not Chris's Ud." It happened twice. It's just embedded in our memories for the rest of our lives.
I feel like you'll hear that when you're playing the game. You'll still mentally be hearing that instead of the actual line.
It's not Chris's Ud. Yeah, those old discs, man. They had like a spot on them. That caused some nightmares in the PlayStation 1 days.
Now, I always wonder about RE1. As I said in my video, is like, well, I was thoroughly unscared of this game playing for the first time as a 21-year-old in 2022.
Yeah.
But like, I said I'd imagine it was a lot different playing it in 1996 on PlayStation 1. But like, I guess now is my chance to learn. Was that games actually scary? Like, were these games actually scary to the people who played them when they came out?
Yeah, they were in the way that like if you show someone Halloween now, then they're not screaming when Michael Myers sits back up. If you show someone The Exorcist now, they're not having a panic attack in the movie theater.
I mean, actually, it's funny you say that because I did watch that for the first time a couple years ago, and I thought it was really good. But yeah, it's like,
but it didn't scare me.
My mind. Yeah, my mind wasn't blown by it.
Right, but because it's all about what you're exposed to in your time and in your culture, right? What is scary? The unknown is scary, right?
Yeah.
And like Alien will never be scary again because we have alien action figures and pillowcases that are in the shape of aliens, right? Like, it'll never be scary again because it's overexposure. And the same rule applies to Resident Evil 1. This was 1996. We had never seen anything like this before. The scary music, the cinematic camera, the slow pace, the zombies. It was fucking terrifying.
I imagine extra so because like there weren't even there weren't even that many 3D action games at all.
This was most people's first 3D console, and not only was it a 3D world, because of the pre-rendered backgrounds, it looked better. Like, you look at Tomb Raider compared to Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 1 wins by a landslide because the backgrounds are painted. It looks like a movie. My mom used to sit on the edge of the couch and just watch us play Resident Evil 1 and tell me that it felt like she was watching a horror movie, which is why I always love fixed camera angles. She wouldn't have gotten that feel from a motion camera. It's the fixed cameras, because fixed camera angles is cinematography, and that's
adds an extra layer of drama to the
absolutely
to the
it is. And so it was really scary. That dog jump scare scared the hell out of you because that had never happened in a game before. The first time you play Silent Hill, as a kid in 1999, and you're walking through that nightmare world, there was nothing like it before. And so, like I said, a lot of it comes down to what you've already been exposed to. If you've seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then maybe Psycho isn't so scary, right? So you have to take the context. Context really matters in this kind of thing, and you have to put yourself into the mindset of someone at the time and what they had already been exposed to, and that helps you appreciate how revolutionary things were. Dude, one of the scariest games I've ever played is the original Clock Tower on PS1.
I've never even heard of it.
Scared the ever-living shit out of me and my sister. My mom still remembers the screams coming from her bedroom as we were playing on her television set as Scissor Man was walking down the hallway, in 2D. It was terrifying, and you look at it now and you laugh at it, but it's all about what you know at the time, and that's what makes it scary. So this shit absolutely was terrifying when it came out.
Well, I think I guess it's also like, that's how I felt playing Resident Evil 2 Remake the first time.
That's what's great about it. It recaptures that.
I was like, I played it when I first encountered Mr. X. He cornered me, and I literally had to pause the game to like hyperventilate for a minute, even though it's like nothing is going to happen to me in the material world. It's just like I still like had to take a break from the pressure. Yeah,
that's one of the reasons that game really gets my respect, is because it recaptures that, and that's one of the reasons why RE2 Original is lower on my list, because it just doesn't capture the horror that RE1 gave me. RE2 was a lot more about like, there's 7 zombies in the room, blow all their heads off.
I think for me, RE2, I think Remake is like the best fixed camera Resident Evil, but like, I think RE2 is my favorite to play, and honestly, like, lose my fan card, it's just because it's the easiest. Like,
okay.
It's just the easiest for me to go back to because of the game is the easiest of them.
Yeah.
Because that is the appeal. Whereas like RE3 is, I would think RE3 is the hardest. So it's like that game kind of kicks my butt even now after like 3 playthroughs of it.
Yes.
So it's like
on a resource management level, no, because they flood you with ammo. But the Nemesis alone makes that game more difficult.
Yeah. And then, well, you said you played all the main games.
All the main games.
You played 0?
Yes.
I don't know if that counted or not.
I played, well, it has a number in it, so I call it mainline. Okay. But here's the thing, I don't have an opinion on 0 because I only played it once when it came out. I loved it, but I only played it like 1.5 times. So that was 20 years ago, and I don't remember well enough. I want to revisit it and see how I feel about it now with a more discerning eye. and see what I like and see what I don't.
That as well, because like I played that for the first time a few years ago for the video, and I really did not like it. Like I thought CV was a game I thought was interesting, but I didn't really enjoy. But Zero was like, I really, really, really don't like that. So that's my least favorite RE game.
Yeah, I think.
Wait, no, RE6. RE6 is my least favorite RE game.
Well, come on, that's obvious.
Yeah, that's a given. But I kind of forgot I played it because I only played it for the first time a month ago. So like.
Oh really? So you're in the same boat as me. My first time was last year.
Oh really? So you're just not interested in any of the action heavy games.
Well, I mean, I loved 4. I played the hell out of 4. I was not against the change.
RE4 was really good.
Whoa, very controversial. I was not in the camp of people who were upset that it had changed genres or that it had created a new thing. I was cool with it because it was really good. But RE5 was where I jumped off. I played it till like mission 6 with co-op with my sister, and I was like, and we didn't finish it. I just got it just felt like too much. It's just so over the top, you know. And so when 6 came out, I saw the reviews, I saw the bugginess of it, and I was like, no thanks, I'm gonna skip this one. And I didn't come back until RE7. I didn't play any Resident Evils until RE7 came out, which was refreshing. That game is kind of a 50-50 thing for me, but it was a refreshing return to horror. Yeah, like I don't care if Resident Evil is action or if it's survival horror. I think it can do either as long as it does them well. I'm happy.
Yeah, well, I think for RE4 is just it manages to work because it's so evenly paced despite the game being so long. Like RE4 will have insane action, but then it'll also have an extended part where there's like no music and you're just walking around in like a quiet atmosphere, which is kind of unnerving in and of itself. Whereas like RE6 is just nonstop brain rot levels of explosions.
Yeah, I couldn't do it, man. Some people really don't like my video on that because most of it is me playing one mission and then saying, I'm out. I'm going to try another character. I'll try this character. This sucks. I'm out.
Yeah, that was a hard one for me to play through, especially because like RE games are usually pretty short. Like RE4 was pretty long by RE standards, being like several hours. But like RE6 is like 15 hours. Like, God. It's not short.
Oh God, no, I couldn't do it.
I played the whole thing.
You played the whole thing. I can't believe it. Dude, okay. Sometimes if I don't like a game, usually I'll reach a point where I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to talk about it, but I think I've seen enough. And sometimes I get shit for that. Like, you didn't even finish the game. And so,
yeah, I know people really hate that. But sometimes there's a thing called pattern recognition and seeing the writing on the wall.
Dude, I drew the line with Deathloop. I don't know if you played Deathloop. Some people like Deathloop. It was one of my worst games of the year in 2021. And I was playing it, and I got to the point where I would normally say, I'm out. But then I thought about all those comments of like all those people who are like, you gotta play it to the end, man. It's not fair if you don't play it to the end. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stick it through to the end and see if it gets better. I played all the way to the end, and it just got worse. and from that moment, I said, never again. If my instincts say stop, I'm just gonna stop, and the commenters be damned.
Yeah. Well, it's usually coming from people who are like fans of it anyway, whereas you stop for a reason, you know. It's like, I try to play through a game from start to finish. I know there are games in the like past that I didn't finish. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've recently quit anything before beating it. Yeah, nothing comes to mind as far as the time I've done that recently, but I think the comments are part of why that is.
We'll see how you feel when you're older and you just can't take certain games anymore. You're like, you know what? Well, I'm wasting my time here.
Yeah, I think it'll also depend on how long the game is, because it's like if it was like some game that was like longer than like 10, 15 hours and I really hated it, I would not want to keep playing anymore. I remember last year I did a video on Gotham Knights, and I was like, this really sucks. And like, but I did play the whole campaign, and like I had a friend who's like, you're not gonna do all the side quests? You did them all for all the Arkham games. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing all the side quests for this. I hate it. I'm not playing it for one more minute past the credits.
Well, then you have no right to talk about it.
Well, I think it's never really going to end with some people as well, because if you don't like the game, it's also going to be like, oh, you played it? Well, did you 100% the save file on New Game Plus? Like, No, and I really will not be doing that because most people who play the game won't even get past the first 10 minutes.
Oh my god.
Like, it's not even a joke. I find that kind of funny with like games trophy stats where it's like, oh yeah, congratulations, you beat the first level as like an achievement. It's like 15 or 40% of players did this. It's like, what, for like the other 60 turned the game on for 5 minutes and didn't keep playing?
Oh god. Oh, speaking of commenters, wow, the my troll of not mentioning Virgil once in my DMC3 video.
Yeah, it seemed to really pay off.
It worked quite exactly as I wanted it to.
I mean, you also said the line about the pinball machine, but it didn't seem as many people took the bait on that one.
Well, you know, it wasn't bait. It was just kind of a wink at the people who did not get my joke in the DMC1 video saying that like, DMC1 was inspired by Street Fighter and not Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing is now people who are going to be like dead serious about that be like, did you do your research? Like, no, as in you've heard this so many times that you were more surprised that I didn't say it than the other way around.
It was a joke, and so I played into it. But yeah, like no one commented on that because they were way too busy commenting, "Where's Virgil?" So it was the exact reaction that I wanted, where the majority of the comments are, "Where's Virgil? How could you not mention Virgil?" And then there's this split in a minority of comments. We'll say like 5%, where like the split of that is some people saying he didn't mention Virgil because he's probably planning like a whole video that's going to break down Virgil because he liked it so much. And then there's the other half that's like he probably just got his ass kicked by Virgil and doesn't even want to admit it. And it's like no, I just thought it was funny. I will briefly talk about Virgil in a video that's coming up soon that talks a little bit about DMC, but I just thought it would be funny to put him in the thumbnail and not even mention one of the greatest boss fights of all time, because I mean, what am I gonna say? Like, it's great. You have to learn. You have to use what you've learned. He's your equal. It's really fun. Like, you already know what I'm gonna say anyway. So why even say it?
That actually is an interesting conversation, though, in and of itself.
Okay.
Which kind of relates back to what we were talking about way earlier. It's just like, I'm starting to feel this way about the YouTube game review niche entirely, which is that I feel like we're reaching like a critical mass where like there's so many people who do what we do.
Yeah.
That like basically every popular game, old and new, has been talked about like ad infinitum. Yeah. So it's like we reach a point where we're making these videos. I remember with DMC 1, 2, and 3, I felt like I was like, I did a really good job with these. I'm really happy with the work I did. But I did have a moment for all three of them where I'm like, yeah, DMC 2 is pretty bad. Hot take.
Yeah, what can you say that hasn't been said by 10 other people, right? I've had the same crisis. I had, like, for me, that was my crisis with Silent Hill. That's why I put it off for so long, because I was like, how many fucking 3-hour analysis videos are there on Silent Hill 2 and shit like that? Or like what the fuck am I going to say that you haven't heard before? And that's why it's good. That's why you got to find a personal angle, right? Like what can you add to the discussion? And it can be hard to talk about the same stuff that people have already said. But the thing is, when you don't say it, they get upset about it.
Yeah, it's like if you do say it, they're gonna leave a comment, be like, "Bro, gonna say the same thing. It's all been said a million times." And then like if you don't say, it, be like, you didn't mention this specific point."
People are pissed off that I didn't talk about the cutscenes of Devil May Cry 3. What do you want me to say? The cutscenes are great. Like,
actually, what you should have said is that the opening cutscene, I really don't like how it just gives you this sick action scene. I think looking for red orbs would have been a lot cooler.
Yeah. I should have done that. They're like, you didn't talk about the music? I was like, well, I don't really have an opinion on it.
Devils Never Cry sucks. Yeah, hot take.
Yeah. Why no? You didn't talk about the story? It's like, I don't play this for the story. If you want to hear me talk about story, watch my God of War video. But I'm not into DMC for the story. Other people are. Watch those videos. Go to those channels. If you have nothing to add to a subject, why say it? You're just wasting people's time, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a thing years ago where my videos were like very long and comprehensive, or at least attempting to be comprehensive. I don't know how successful it was at that, but like I don't really do it like that anymore. My videos, even if they're saying things that somebody else has already said, my videos purely now are just I say what I find relevant.
That's
Like
what you got to do.
What is relevant to my opinion of the game, that's what I talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else is just on the cutting room floor, which is like sometimes a video might be longer, like my re-review of Jack 2 or like my videos in the Last of Us games last year. Like those will be long videos because I want them to be, or not really because I want them to be, but rather just because talking about all the things that I talked about interests me. Whereas I remember I got a comment on my Spider-Man 2018 video being like, I wish this was more in-depth when it was like 25 minutes. It's like, well, this is what you're getting because I don't want to talk about this game for an hour.
Yeah. You got to cover every single little thing. And if you're critical about a game that you love, then you're a hater. That's the weirdest thing.
I mean, honestly, like as YouTubers, I think we could talk about what it's like dealing with like comment type people for hours. Really,
we could. Like, we don't want to bore the listeners too much with this stuff, but we could.
We're also we're like the only people who like regularly experience this insanity. So it's just like
it's unique.
It is a unique experience to deal with because sometimes in like the comments or on social media in general, not just in my own sphere, it's like I feel like I'm reading some of these people talk and I'm like, I feel like I'm in a parallel world sometimes. Like I'm not trying to like make it sound like it's like, oh, he thinks he's better than everybody else. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the real weirdos, like not everybody who just leaves a here's what I thought kind of comment. I'm talking about like I remember it was just somebody on the internet was complaining that like the character designers on this like Velma show should never work in animation again. And it's like a YouTuber quote tweeted it. I'm acquainted with him. He quote tweeted it. It's like, maybe we shouldn't be calling for people to just lose their jobs over a cartoon you didn't like. And then all the comments are like, what? That's outrageous. Like we're the outrageous ones for saying something as mild as people should have a right to work. And then it's like on the internet world is like where that's a hot take.
Well, things get taken to the extreme quite often.
Yeah, that's like I said, I could talk about internet people all day long because it's like I don't really get the opportunity to do it that often.
You don't have conversations with other like creators often like this?
Oh, I do. That's the only outlet that I mean. Is like when you're going in your day-to-day life, you're not going to be like
your friends. Like you can't you can complain to your friends. You can mention some weird shit, but you can't talk to them for an hour about it.
Yeah, without it just being like, all right, time to log off.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some wild stuff that goes on, and one thing that I think commenters don't understand is that we get notifications about this stuff in real time. Like, you can be out at dinner, and you look at your phone, and you're like, oh, what's going on my phone? And you see that, like, I can't believe you, ... And you're like, well, I got to know what that says. You click it, and you open it, and it's someone who commented 45 seconds ago that says the most outrageous thing ever, and you're like, well, I gotta respond to this right now, and you write it, and they're like, God, you have no life, you're responding to my comment now. It's like, I get your notifications in real time, motherfucker.
Well, on that exact note, I find funny is when they comment on like a years old video with some criticism of it.
We get that shit in real time.
Yeah, like it's at the top of our feed.
Yeah.
Like, and then you respond, and then or be like, "This is years old, dude. Like, who cares?" And then they'll be like, "Wow, you're so obsessed that you're monitoring the comments on a years old video." It's like, no, it's at the top of my feed. Yeah, what are you talking about?
They don't understand that because they don't work on YouTube. They think that you're on an old video refreshing the comments.
And it's like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. And then they'll be like, well, other YouTubers don't respond to my comments on their years old videos. It's like, yeah, because they chose not to because they don't care.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. We should just not care. I have one of my best friends since childhood. He has an attitude that I wish I had. All right. He said, why would you ever leave a comment on a YouTube video?
Well, it's like, so funny.
Man, like, I envy you. I envy your life, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Although for me personally, I also like becoming a YouTuber actually made my interest in commenting on other people's work like drop to like negative integers because it's like I almost never comment on anything, but YouTube is still also one of my primary sources of entertainment at the same time. But I like never comment on videos. And like that for me, I also don't watch as many game reviews as I used to. Like before I was a YouTuber, that was like one of my favorite things to see. But now as like in years into the content creation game, I usually don't watch a lot of other people's game content because I'm like, well, I don't want to fear the competition and or feel like I'm stealing points if I make a video of this on myself. It's like
really that's how you feel about it.
Yeah, like usually like if I haven't done the game already, I'll like subconsciously wonder if I'm like gonna steal from it by accident when making it. And especially now that everybody is like hopped up on the YouTube plagiarism thing after the H-Bomber video. So like I'm really like trying to be conscious of that, but then almost to like a overly anxious level. But then like if I have already covered the game, if I watch somebody else's video on it, I'm gonna be like, wait a minute, maybe he did better than me, and that'll really like get to me.
Huh, that's interesting. I just don't watch most gaming channels anymore out of fatigue because I think games all the time. And I mean,
that too, I guess. You also want to live with the same stuff over and over. And I guess that also leads to the other thing we're talking about where it's like my feed is like usually filled with recommendations on videos on games that I like. But then it's like these are games I've heard retrospectives on 100 times already, so I'm not going to watch another one.
Yeah. You know, I enjoy watching reviews of games that I just did a video on, like Phantom Fury just came out and I did a review on that, and then as soon as my review is up, I saw the other people in my sort of shooter atmosphere do their videos, and I was like, I want to see what all of them have to say about a certain topic. I'll do that, but just like generally watching, like casually watching gaming videos, I don't do that very often because I'd rather not think about gaming when I'm playing games, I'm making my own videos, I'm doing game testing on the side, and it's kind of like I don't want to relax by watching a 2-hour analysis on why Fallout 4 is a secret masterpiece or whatever. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Like I said, like I basically watch a lot of videos in other niches on YouTube because of the fact that, like, to me, that's just so disconnected from what I'm doing that I find it more entertaining.
What kind? I like to I like to do movie stuff. I'm really into like script analysis, cinematography, and stuff. What do you tend to watch when you're not in the gaming headspace?
Well, I'm usually like interested in like the video essay type stuff, but I mean, I'm trying to like not say, because I feel like if I say politics channels, that makes it sound like I'm thinking of like a nut like doing a podcast. Like that's kind of like the connotation that genre has. But usually like the more well-researched scripted type stuff, like that's what I tend to be interested in, talking about like what various books or things have said, or like
social issues, political issues.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I find the most interesting on YouTube these days. Cool.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes here and there when I'm in the mood for it. Yeah, Cold Fusion. You ever watch Cold Fusion?
Oh no, never heard of it.
There's a lot of like what's happening in the tech world. You know, like what's happening with AI or what's happening with like companies with financial scams. Yeah, pretty good channel.
Yeah, no, I usually like stuff like Some More News or like Philosophy Tube is tend to be like my favorite stuff on YouTube. The stuff that's like borderline movie quality. But I'm like, I could never make this. But having said that, it's really good.
Yeah, it's good. Kind of. It's because in the YouTube world, in the YouTube work world, it's easy to kind of like forget the fucking world you live in. You just get. It happens to me sometimes. Not so much these days, but kind of like in the late COVID years, where it was just like I was just grinding 3 videos out a week, and I was locked in my house, and it's kind of like I forgot what the hell is even going on with people.
Yeah. Well, like, do you just do videos whenever you can, or do you try to keep to any kind of a schedule with it?
I try to have something out every week, even if it's small. Like this week, it's just going to be this talk. I don't have any other video. I've slowed down. I used to try to get 2 videos out a week. In the Doom Eternal days, I had 3 videos out a week, but I try to do 1. I'm slowing down a little bit because I don't advertise this, but I've been getting more and more work with indie developers in the QA department. I've been like indie devs will send me their games and then they'll bring me on as kind of like a senior QA position to where I work with the director and help them fix bugs or fix balance issues and design contradictions, stuff like that. I've been doing that more and more over the past 2 years to where I'm kind of splitting my time between the two, focusing less on YouTube and focusing more on that where I feel like I'm actually making a really positive difference in things. But I'm not letting YouTube go. I'm just not grinding it as much as I used to.
Well, I'm trying to take a more lax position on it as well. Like for like all of 2022 and 2023, I had a thing where I did weekly videos. And like it just sort of was a thing. I was still doing it early into this year, but it was around when I was doing RE4 remake where I was like, I literally cannot like do that. Like trying to like get a 30-minute video out in a week is just like, it really gets to you after a while, you know? It's like, I started wondering, is this even good? Like, I don't even know because I'm not even taking the time to think about whether or not it's good because I don't have that kind of time when it's like a weekly affair. So like now ever since then, which is only a month ago, but ever since then, I'm just kind of like when it's done, it's done. I'll try to do it as fast as I can, but when it's done is the current philosophy.
Yeah. Do you ever make material in advance to give yourself time for a break?
It kind of depends on what's going on. Like I take every January off because like, you know, January is when the algorithm and well, I guess all media goes to die. So like I don't make videos in January and use that as like a time to rebuild some of the steam. But in January, these last 2 years, what I have done is I've like re-released old content as like compilations, just like take a bunch of videos from a retrospective, stitch them together, and now it's one video.
Okay.
That's actually my most popular upload is one of those. My most popular upload is when I did that. Like I did a re-review of the Jack games in 2022. And then for my first upload in 2023 was just stitching them together. And then that's my most popular video of all time.
I should do that.
Yeah, I mean, you should, honestly. It's like the algorithm really likes long videos with the watch time and like average view duration is higher. I mean, it's not a guarantee, but it seems to be a thing that kind of works. So, and also can like have your video appeal to a wider audience who just like maybe they like kind of remember that game and will be interested in watching like a big retrospective on like a whole series rather than like only like a hardcore fan is going to watch Jack 1, 2, 3, X, like every single game as a separate video. But anyway, yeah, I take January's off, but then also if I'm like ahead of my own schedule a little bit, like if I have like some shorter videos like back to back to back, I can kind of build up like a point where I'm kind of really ahead in the schedule where they can be like a break, but like a lot of the time, yeah, I'm just like working all year long.
Sure. Well, Jay, is there anything else you want to touch on? It's been like I don't know, like an hour and 15 minutes or so. Anything else on your mind you want to hit before we call this?
Well, not really, I guess, because it's like I feel like this conversation was definitely a decent spread of talking about games and also the YouTube as a career, which I think not enough people get to talk about because like I think I kind of alluded to this as a joke earlier, but it's like when YouTubers talk about their lives as YouTubers, sometimes like people like, oh yeah, your life's so hard, you make videos on games, right? But it's like, so YouTubers are almost afraid of talking about it, so I think it's always nice to like talk about it and air it out for the audience.
Yeah, well, like the public has the idea of YouTuber based on the worst possible example of people who are like, hey, check out my new house,
Yeah.
like
that is the cliche.
That's
of
what they think of. Sup, guys, like all that kind of stuff. That's how they think of YouTubers. They don't think of the people who spend 2 weeks writing a script and then spend 5 hours editing their audio. Like they don't think about that side of things. And so when you say you're a YouTuber, there's like this kind of dirty, like I don't like saying it. I don't like saying I'm a YouTuber.
I always go with content producer.
Content producer, sure, yeah. Because people always think the worst immediately.
Well, I that's why I always like have a lot of respect for career streamers. Like that's another thing that's like a really dirty term for people because it's like what you get on the camera and you play a game and or do whatever you're streaming all day long and you consider that work and you're burned out of that. But like for me, as somebody who has done streaming on and off, because it's what you do when you make videos about video games, but also really hates streaming, I can really like, I feel like for me, if I had to stream for hours a day, every day, I would really hate my life after a while. Because like you're like playing a game, yeah, but you also have to like be in audience entertainment mode like all day long. Like I would hate that.
Yeah, like imagine being in a room for 10 hours and having a conversation with 20 people at the same time, nonstop, every day.
Who you aren't even talking to. You're basically essentially talking to yourself out loud.
Just responding to them.
It's like, well, also you want to be entertaining too. It's like, it's just, and then there's all the struggle with parasocial relationships, like streaming. That's a world I cannot do. I have respect for people who do it, but it's like not enough people really hear about what it's actually like from the people who do it.
I used to do it more. I only stream like once a month or so when I'm like testing out a new game or trying something out. But streaming twice a week, I used to do that, and just kind of like, I don't know, I'm not that social, and I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird kind of pressure. You deal with some weird people on there, and it's better just kind of like a niche thing that you do for certain dedicated viewers that you like to talk to, and that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And get some good ideas here and there, and some questions answered in real time. Well, that's oh, sorry, what you were gonna say?
Yeah, I was just gonna keep rambling on about streaming, I guess. So it's like, I guess if we wanted to wrap up, that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about what's coming up. What projects do you have in the pipeline, Jay?
I mentioned it earlier, but Mega Man 4, 5, and 6 is like the next batch of big content.
Okay.
And then, of course, I have also had like a plan I'm still debating about, where I want to revisit the early Metal Gear Solid games. But like, it's the thing is for me is that I used to be like this mega Metal Gear fanboy, but like I want to go back to it because I don't really care for Metal Gear anymore as much as I used to. Because I used to be like an addict who had played the games like dozens of times each. But now it's like, but I'm like, I don't know if any fan base wants to hear that perspective anyway. But I still respect them as pieces of art. So I think it'd be really interesting videos. But then it's like, I just worry about that comment section, I guess. So that's like up in the air. And then I'm going to go back to DMC4 and then the reboot in DMC5. But that's the immediate like next couple months of stuff I want to do.
Nice. I'm excited. I have the same plan. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna do 4. I want to revisit 5. That's gonna be fascinating.
Yeah.
And then I definitely want to play the reboot and just go in with an open mind, just see how it goes. I think I'm gonna hate it less than most people because I don't care about the story of DMC, and I know the story is what people hate the most. Right.
Well, I think it'd be very funny if we accidentally ended up doing it at the same time again. But for me, what I would say about DMC Devil May Cry is like, for me, in hindsight, I think it's pretty easy to just kind of enjoy it for what it is because we have DMC 5 now. Yeah. So like the lost potential of 4 isn't really an issue anymore.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, it'd be interesting to see what you think of it.
Do you ever plan to do the Silent Hill series or God of War?
I tried playing Silent Hill 1 over my winter break a few months ago. I didn't finish it, but I was like we're definitely finding it really scary. Like I never found Resident Evil scary on PS1, but Silent Hill was actually like, in the first 10 minutes when you're like in the alley with like all the darkness, I was like, holy shit.
Silent Hill is fucking terror, dude. That's the real shit. That's not, oh, there's zombies in a mansion. Silent Hill is like, this is your worst nightmare.
Yeah. Well, God of War, though, I've played every game in the series. I'm actually pretty into it, although it's the inverse of like for you, where it's like for me, God of War is a game. I like God of War.
Yeah.
But like for me, Devil May Cry is the one I played first, so that's the bar to me. Whereas like God of War, I'm like, this is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. We're opposite on that. I'm actually that's what I'm working on now. I've wanted to do this for a long time because God of War fans, not universally, but sometimes they're looked down upon by DMC fans as playing the inferior hack and slash.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to do a video talking about just why I personally prefer God of War to DMC. Not saying it's a better game, but like, why does this resonate more with me? Is it just because I played it first? I don't think so. And so that's one of the I've put it off until I finally played DMC 1, 2, and 3, which would give me a lot more context. And now that I have done that, I can confidently put together my script on why God of War fans might prefer that series to DMC while still enjoying DMC. And so I think it's gonna be fun. I'm planning to do that in a week or so.
I wish everybody would just chill out and get along and be like, games are good games are good games.
Good games are good games. Hell yeah, people have their preferences.
I'm also a fan of new God of War as well, so I don't know, we're not on the same page with that either. But.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning in to this interview with Jay. I think we've reached the end.
Yeah, and we'll never speak again.
All right, dude, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a really good time talking to you. And
I did as well.
I hope we stay in touch. I hope we release our DMC4 video on the same second.
Yeah. It was like my complete accident yet again.
Yes. All right. Well, then, have a good night. Good luck with your next projects. Everyone, make sure you follow Jay's Reviews. Jay, just the letter, J''S, Jay's Reviews. Check out his Resident Evil stuff, his DMC stuff, and look forward to his Metal Gear retrospective. And everyone have a good day, and thank you for listening to us. Goodbye.